Auzwe.
Izolezi dombe zitilizo tano. Izolezi dombe zitilizo tano.
You are welcome to Global Dialogue. Today is Sunday, and you know that at this particular time, we come your way with events and happenings around the world. Tonight, we are bringing you another exciting edition of Global Dialogue. We're talking about food fraud. Now, in 2008, melamine was discovered in baby food in China, killing a number of children. And then in 2015, it was said that palm oil was detected in milk in Russia. Pork and horse meat was also said to have been discovered in beef burgers in England. That is in 2013. Now, if these nations, advanced as they are, can fall prey to food fraud, what is the fate of Africa? How secured are we on this continent? The next time you go to a supermarket and buy, say, a can of mineral, do you know the chemical content? The next time you want to eat chicken, pork, or even beef, do you know what you are eating? What are the mechanisms in place, especially in Africa, to ensure that consumers are protected against the so-called food terrorists? We are going to be delving into this issue seriously, and tonight we are fortunate enough to have in the studio a regular panelist, Professor Devalera Botri. He is from the Department of History, University of Cape Coast. Prof, good evening.
Good evening.
I trust you are doing good.
Very well,
thank God, thank God. And then also we have Dr. Eneste, the man who has been working behind the scene on this particular issue that we are talking about. Dr. Eneste is a food technologist with the University of Cape Coast. Good evening, Doc. You are welcome back to Global Dialogue. I believe the week has been good.
Very, very good.
Good. All right. Now, getting into the discussion, we would want you to lay the foundation for us. When we say food fraud, what exactly do we mean?
And when we say food fraud, someone will say there is no ambiguous definition. All the definitions are coming from, but I want to read one outstanding definition from here.
Okay.
But in a collective term, we say food fraud is a deliberate action to deceive consumers and make economic gains. Because if you look at this definition, it's so broad and it encompasses a lot of things. Food fraud is a collective term used to encompass a deliberate, intentional, and these words must be underlined: substitution, addition, tempering, misrepresentation of food ingredient, or packaging, or false or misleading statement made about a food product. So in general, food fraud is very wide, but one trending word which we all know is adulteration.
Okay.
So adulteration plays a vital role in food fraud. But at the back of the food fraudsters, they look at what we call the economic gains, what they will get from food. Because you all know food is the fuel which everybody consumes every day, 24/7. So these food fraudsters find ways of either substituting, either tempering, either falsifying or misrepresenting food just to make economic gains.
I see. Thank you very much for that foundation. Professor Botri, by way of history, do we have anything to guide us as far as this subject is concerned, food fraud?
Well, I would say that as far as that area is concerned, one can say that for historians in Ghana and Africa, it is a burgeoning area.
Okay.
It is not an area that people have actually endeavored to explore.
Then we are in trouble.
Yes, yes. because when you look at the historiographical tradition of Ghana and other places in Africa, we have always been very much interested in political history, economic history, basically history of kingdoms and kings and wars. It is now that other aspects of history are beginning to attract some kind of interrogation: gender history, sports history, and food history. When we look at food history, many of the scholars have not explored the area of fraud. They have actually looked at where food A came from, where maize originated, where cassava came from, how they got here, and how people have actually endeavored to turn these exotic foods into local cuisines. But generally speaking, and this is not really going to be historical, but more of understanding what human beings have become, we would say, as he said, food fraud fundamentally is one which is animated and engineered by greed, and one which again emerges from the territory of economics,
Exactly.
about profit making.
Profit margin.
And so if we look at the genesis of humankind as we were once upon a time, hunters and gatherers, when we became sedentary and started to practice agriculture, the quest to, in a way, keep food, store food, in a way also protect food, made human beings to find chemicals and other additives to add to the food store that they had in order to prolong the lifespan. And so they were finding, well, what one would say natural additives as well as artificial additives to, in a way, give, as I said, the lifespan of food, a more longer period or duration. That was fundamentally not for economic gains, but some of the additives were harmful, as they didn't really know what they basically contained. But over time, when human beings started to move away again from agrarian culture to urban spaces and industrialization, as many people moved away from their own farms and left a few people to farm for them, to send the food now to the industries for them to package, and also to send food to the urban spaces, into stores and so on and so forth. Then the whole commodification really of food and the health of people emerged. And that is when some people started to find ways of not only elongating the lifespan of the food that they had received from the rural areas and the farmers, but also to, in a way, increase the quantity by adding, additives, adding one substance or the other to make the food that they have become more, in order to gain some money. So in Europe and England, you had people adding, different things like even lead to wine and beer. You had people adding chalk to milk, and so on and so forth. People coloring food to in a way attract people, but not really considering and thinking about the health implications of these things.
I see. Professor Boche, I'm taking a quick break. When I come back, we are going to delve deeper into the various forms of food fraud, and then we'll look at its implications on society. I'll be right back.
If you always keep your money in your wallet.
Hey, Afatogbe.
Afudo Messi.
Apume.
Yamina Adam was say.
Afume baby.
Shay. Apa money man my boy mu.
Hey.
Hey, apa nen kabo. Hey. Easy eh. Yellow card. Easy eh. Red card.
Ah, referee. I'm when you cry.
Oh, maybe you're going.
I'm when you cry. GM mobile money. Ariaba. Akita afun baku. Another baby. So I adjuma my GM mobile money. A percentage na abanyano. Aye baby. Maybe here I register no. Star 712 hash. I register here.
Na no mama boy.
Ice.
Oh, dear.
Afatogbe.
Obodo Messi. Obodo Messi. Wa bom papa. Yamin shop. Won so bebe dey no so no.
GN Mobile Money, total convenience.
Izolezithombe zithiliza utown wolo. Si. Izolezithombe zithiliza utown wolo. Izolezithombe zithiliza utown wolo.
All right, so you're welcome back. This is Global Dialogue. We are live on Ocean One Television. We're also live on Ahunka 99.5 FM and on Facebook, Ocean One TV. Tonight we are discussing food fraud. I know in the course of the introduction, you got the idea of what to expect within the next 1.5 hours. With me in the studio tonight, Professor Divala Raboche from the History Department of UCC and Dr. Eneste, food technologist also from UCC. Now, Prof, you were talking about the various forms, but take me back a bit to the colonial era, how food fraud existed in those days.
So basically you look at the indigenous terrain, and it was very agrarian. People exchanged what they produced in the different zones, the Sahelian and the forest zones, and also the coastal zones. But I would say that a little evidence that we have in history, when you know that the transatlantic trade emerged,
yeah.
and we started, or the people on the coast, or the people in the area that became known as the Gold Coast started to trade with the Portuguese, the Dutch, the English, and the other European countries, reveals that there was some kind of food fraud going on there.
Okay.
Not much information is on it.
How was it like then?
Well, it was the evidence that I have basically revolves around drinks, alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah. Asian wines.
Okay.
Alcohol, where the indigenous people developed, or the Africans on the coast developed a taste for foreign wine and foreign rum and gin.
And the schnapps, the gin and all those
yes.
things.
But you understand that it was a capitalist driven economy, so it was about profit making. So some of the Europeans will bring shams and knockoffs on very bad wine, stuff that they mixed. And also the Africans on the coast, and I'm not going to mention any ethnic group's name, but some of them will take the rum from the European, because rum wasn't brewed here. The local terrain was, rum wasn't distilled. The local terrain was one which brewed stuff. So we were more into the production of beer, but not distillation of spirits. So spirits came from Europe. We had people then getting it on the coast, and that's middlemen who will then sell it to people in the interior. What they would do is to mix the rum, dilute it, and at times some of them will even add pepper, grind pepper, put water in it, and then mix it with the rum in order to have more
To
rum.
increase the volume, okay?
Yeah, and that even led to some kind of distrust and also conflict between some of the ethnic groups in Ghana, where some of them also, apart from food, you had, because it was a capitalist-driven economy and it was basically about profit, you even had people now getting gunpowder from the Europeans. But this would tell you that some trickery, you know, and some kind of cheating went on. And so you had people getting gunpowder and crushing charcoal, grinding charcoal, and mixing it with the gunpowder and selling it to some of the ethnic groups in the hinterland. So that was going on. Just as some of them will also get gold, and the gold dust they will add alloy. They will alloy it, or they'll just grind brass chippings and add it to the gold and sell it to the Europeans. So it was a two-way traffic.
Okay.
Where you had some people, so you had food. So if people were then mixing rum, then we can also imagine perhaps the ham, the margarine, the butter, the oil that people were getting from some of the unscrupulous European traders, maybe were not good food.
I see. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Ernest. I don't know if you have anything to add to the colonial era, the forms of food fraud that existed then.
Actually, the little that I have reviewed, because I am not a historian, I try reading around to see exactly what was going on. But as Prof rightly said, it existed even in the ancient Greece and the Athenian history, where they know that wine, for instance, is one of the commodities traded around. And again, little food stuff that sometimes are seasonal. Because they are seasonal, how do they, the powder process forms milk, for instance, they know that a cow milk is the best. So if they have other animals like pig, they can through that deceive and get more money. These are some of the things that were going on, but they were so little and scanty because little information were available at that time to even spread the information around.
I see.
But food fraud existed, as Prof was trying to establish that fact. You cannot get those strong evidence in Africa, but so far as the Americans and the other are concerned, they existed a long time ago.
I see.
Yeah.
You can also join the conversation by sending your WhatsApp messages to 020-7566-185. 020-7566-185, and the number is on your screen, so you can just send your WhatsApp messages. Dr. help us. What were the various forms of food fraud, or should I say, presently? Now that we know it is more organized as opposed to the past where it's kind of scanty.
Now, if you even want to look at the various forms, you need to look at what we call the themes or the types. Now, first and foremost, we have what we call the adulteration, where someone will buy, say, honey, and then in it is something that's maybe sugar. It's a form of adulteration. We also have what we call the theft. Food meant for, let's say, fighting hunger somewhere, and then people will steal that idea and change and bring it here. Maybe it's supposed to be sent to the war-torn areas to fight hunger, and then it's brought here. We also have the diversion. They all form those types. So we have about 7 of them, if I may read to you.
Go ahead.
The first one,
amplify your voice a bit so we
the
can
first
hear you.
one, which is popular to all of us, is the adulteration.
The adulteration.
Changing of components of finished product. The other one, we have tampering. Legitimate product and packaging are used in a fraudulent way.
Okay, we've seen several examples in Ghana, for instance.
Exactly. For instance, they have product labeling, like recently we just had people changing the date and putting their own stuff. We also have the overruns. Legitimate product is made in excess of production in agreement. I am making this product for you. I will make maybe 1 ton, but I make over and maybe send it somewhere. Then we have the theft. Legitimate product is stolen and passed off as legitimate procured. So you steal some product. It was made for some people, then it's stolen. Examples are there. Diversion, relief product to eradicate some problem somewhere. Maybe a minister is supposed to make sure that this product goes this way, but it is taken and given to other places and they are sold. It's also
to make money.
Diversion. Then we have the simulation, that knockoff of popular food not meant produced with same food safety. You know, food is supposed to be made with traceability steps.
Okay.
So people jump that, they knock off certain things and do.
What is it? Food is supposed to be made with traceability steps.
For instance,
what is that?
For instance, if you are producing cocoa, I rightly said something to some people. They were saying there's now a header or there's now traceability study for products that we export. So I asked them, what of the one we eat? Can you trace? Cocoa, for instance, you can even trace to the farmer.
Okay.
Okay, so if there is a problem, maybe you can find that farmer and then you rectify that situation.
Okay.
But the ones that are eating here, can we do that?
Okay.
You buy your cassava at Kotokraba. Can you go back and say, where did you get this cassava? Recently, we heard some people dying from consuming some food.
Yeah.
If they could trace back, maybe I'm sure they will get to a bottleneck somewhere because they cannot trace all this thing. But for products like pineapple, you export, cocoa, the white man or someone, let me not use a white man, developed countries, they make sure that
they trace
it back. So they have numbers that trace. Then the other last one, which is counterfeiting, intellectual property right infringement, which could include all aspects of fraudulent product and packaging. You made a product well designed, someone steals it and changes it. It's just like counterfeit money.
Okay.
So you made a product in a way, then it's changed. And they all have different side effects, different economic benefit, economic effects, which if we say we're going to talk about, I'm sure time is going to. But we need to hit the right one so that our consumers will come to the realization that they need to, if you need to protect your house, you need to protect what you eat.
I see. This is Global Dialogue, and we are live on Ahunka 99.5 FM and as well on Ocean One Television from the Republic of Elmina. My name is Deladem Kisei, and I'm here with Professor Divalere Boche and Dr. Eneste, all from the University of Cape Coast. Now, you earlier mentioned that this food fraud is driven by greed.
Yeah.
Does it mean that we cannot have unintentional food fraud?
Yes, you can. If it is done deliberately, then that is where the fraud is.
Okay.
But if it is done due to error or those things,
due to error,
maybe negligence, it is not fraud.
So we should be looking out for element that constitutes negligence on one part, and then the intent, what we call the mens rea in law, it should be there.
Yes, it should be there. It should be there because we have the defense aspect where you produce for safety reasons, but because it was going through the process, something happened. There are laws even in Ghana talking about food fraud.
Yeah.
When I see people, I tell them, oh, now my interest is looking at, I researched maybe by divine intervention or so, rapid detection of food quality and safety.
Okay.
Now zooming into food fraud.
We are going to get to your personal work on that. Now, let's see some of these major headlines that I mentioned. For instance, in China, where this melamine was found in milk, in Russia, in Italy, all over the place.
Now in France.
Now they have the law, the systems were working, and yet these food fraudsters were able to, weave their way around the system. And to talk about Africa, where the only institution that we can rely on is the Food and Drugs Authority, who lacked. How were these people able to beat advanced systems like those that exist in America and Europe?
You mean the ones in Africa?
In Europe.
In Europe, okay.
With all the advancement,
yes,
people still find their way around it.
You see, it's an organized we always say that food fraudsters will not go unpunished. Either they get the punishment directly or it goes around and back to them. The system is that technology is advancing. The way you advance to detect, they also find ways of dodging.
Okay.
For instance, now, because of what we call fingerprinting, you can fingerprint milk from Africa and it will not be the same as those from Europe. This technology is advancing. Because of that, they are able to
Fingerprinting, so you are not referring to this fingerprint?
No, there are some DNA specific structure in a milk. For instance, a typical work I did for cocoa, where Ghana cocoa is unique even with regions. So people are even citing, and we are doing some collaborative work. Cocoa from each region has specific,
it's unique.
Yes, fingerprint. So you can cluster them by NIR and other things, near infrared spectroscopy. The same way, you see, they are even watching. People are looking for money. Because of their greed, they try to see the loopholes. And you know, the eye is not watching everywhere at the same time.
Of course.
So because of that, they see the loophole and then they explore that opportunity and then sell their product. Like I was, when we have time, I'm going to read to you some of 2018. This is just a recent release in Europe. All the food fraud they identified in 2017, and you'll be amazed at what are we doing. So it is because of technology, people are advancing in the other way. Now there's machine for making, let's say, pallets into rice. Formerly maybe it wasn't there. So if you are advancing in ways of detecting rice quality, okay, they will polish the rice, the broken ones, they make it into powder and reconstitute it again into rice.
I see.
So now what will you use in checking that? Formerly it wasn't there, but because the waste from the long one, the broken ones are too much, they cannot handle. They find other alternative smart way. And so you must always be ahead of time so as to beat these food fraudsters. Other than that, it's getting a lot of money more than Galamsey.
I see. So in a situation where we are trying to introduce a national health insurance system, we're talking about building more hospitals. What we are doing is virtually to receive patients, but not to prevent.
Yes. So you see, European Union, let me read something to you.
Let's get that.
It says they have what we call Europol. Now, food fraud on a plate. Over 3,000 tons of dangerous food removed from the consumers' market.
This is 3,000 tons.
3,600
tons
of dangerous food products removed from consumers' market. This is Europol, that is European system.
European
where,
market,
yes, and the list goes on, from India, from Belgium, from Spain. I can read to you from Belgium, for instance, sale of rotten meat unfit for consumption. Spain, fake baby milk powder, even in Spain. European Union, fraudulent practice in tuna. Fish industry now is also receiving their own type of fraud, where we know, or everybody know, I want red fish.
Yeah.
Then they get some kind of fish that looks similar.
So red.
If you don't detect it well, it will even beat you. So here they are even using tuna. This is happening in European wide. Then we have what we call smuggling of perishable produce in France. So these are all happening happening, and this was only detected in 2017 and 18.
We are in trouble.
But
especially recently, when you saw a video trending, I learned it was coming from Nigeria, where food that was not safe for consumption, buried. People went into the hole, dug it out, and took it to town. So if somebody sits somewhere and see how hungry we are for expired product, unwholesome product, meat, of course the one that comes, canned, well packaged, we would go for them. Doc, are we safe in Africa?
I'll be very this question looks too dicey, but let me say we are safe if only we are cautious. Because there are simple techniques that maybe after this show whilst going on, we'll look at some simple ways of detecting some of them. If you are just suspicious, you just come back, or you just neglect. But we are safe if we are cautious. I know this show is going to go down to a lot of consumers, this is a particular place you need to be very careful.
I see. I want us to. I know you're trying to be very careful, but we would delve a bit into some of the product. I was just reading.
That one.
Some of the products that are amenable to food fraud.
I made
some of the sites listed about 12. The first 12.
Yeah.
So walk us through some of these products.
Yeah, let me walk.
I was amazed when somebody from the US was sharing his thoughts with me on especially drinks. And when he saw those drinks in Ghana, he said, wow, do you know what you are drinking?
Yes.
We talk about coffee, we talk about tea, some
Coffee,
of these vegetables.
You see, anything that is highly consumed, there is a high probability of fraud.
I see.
Because of course people are consuming and they are not even
The market
checking
is
coffee.
there, the demand is
coffee,
there.
oh, we have Arabica and we have Robusta, so let's consume anything. But we have prices. Coffee from Kenya, coffee from Ghana, coffee from Uganda. You see,
and then aphrodisiacs.
exactly. So if you look at the 10 fruits that are most at risk of fraud,
Okay.
olive oil.
Olive oil. In Ghana, we had people using Frito.
Exactly.
They pour it into the bottle.
Even
And then
that
sell
one,
it
if
as
you are
a-
smart, you will be
Okay.
able.
All right.
We have fish.
Fish.
Yes, fish. A lot of problem, because of course people use unorthodox means to harvest the fish,
Okay.
and because the definition captures
Yes.
those ways of doing that, it's also fraud. Fish is there. Organic foods. Oh, this is labeled organic, so high price. So if I can find a way of changing, making it look like organic, I'll get more money. It's there. We also have what we call milk. Half of milk, apart from the Chinese issue, which they've tried to resolve, the recent one I read to you is Spain.
Spain.
Yeah. Then we also have grains. Grains are trending because people are eating a lot of grains. People are eating. So, okay, let's wait. The grains are going bad. We know they are going bad. We will bleach them and then back them with perfume and sell. Then we have honey.
Especially when it comes to rice.
Yes, rice, wheat, a lot of them you
Okay.
can mention. Here they stated rice, wheat, and a lot. But
Okay.
if you even come to honey, syrup is replaced with some percentage.
We are doing it here in Ghana, even in the central region.
Yes. And then coffee and tea. That's number 7. Number 8, spices. Recently we
Spices.
collected spices around the world. Oregano to be specific and others. And we found out that some oregano was having as high as 60% adulteration. Oregano. Because oregano in Europe is a high spice. Everybody try to use it in cooking because it has a lot of medicinal properties.
Understand that there is one to call saffron or something.
Yes. So we also have the wine.
Wine.
Origin is hidden. Yes, wine. You know, wine that is 100 years old, 50 years old, 30 years old is
Those
very
are the most
expensive.
expensive.
Yes, so of course, if you have a way of changing the hormones or the phenolines inside to look like it's 100 years or 30 years, you get more price.
And you saw a video trending where some young men were doing some of these spirits. In Nigeria, we saw some people bottling malts and all this.
The last one,
Okay.
according to the rankings they use, is fruit juice. Certain fruit juices that we have. Some can go as high as 90%. For instance, tomato paste. I
Okay.
once did some work somewhere again. That's why I'm saying maybe nature was driving me towards, and it was having 5% tomatoes. It was
That's 5%
5%
tomato.
cornstarch.
What is the rest?
Cornstarch, color,
Cornstarch and then color.
and color.
So when you go in there, you buy it, you think you
And
have.
it's written 100. This was not done in Ghana though, and
Yeah.
I'm not mentioning the country, but I mean,
But they are all over in our supermarkets. And so we are seeing a lot of diseases today. Well, we'll come to that. We'll try and then establish that connection. Prof, with this lineup, what do you make of it? Especially when it comes to the drinks.
Well,
Canned drinks, bottled
Well,
drinks.
well, when it comes there, then we should now rethink about how we feed ourselves.
Exactly.
Many of these are not produced in Ghana, right?
Exactly.
And so that is why maybe we have to endeavor to set up our own industries and produce these. This is not to say that it will remove it, because you also have people who are greedy and also in search of profit, so they'll go after it. But there is this, you have cabals and mafia groups out there who see Africa and as a place where, you know, such items could be dumped, and Africans or people on the continent are dispensable, and so they basically send these things here. The other thing is that many of the people who go in to get these things and import them, they are from Ghana, they are from Africa, and some of them know that some of these, you know, products are not good. Some of them know that they are cheap, and so they will basically go in for them. Some of them will actually go in and say, you know what, you are about to get these off your shelf. Can we get these and send them to Africa? Can we get these and send country A in West Africa, country B in Southern Africa? They get these things and they bring them here. So it's also about the morals of some people being skewed and not being good. That's when they take them, bring them here and sell those things to people to eat. But when it comes to perhaps the cultural element and the psychology, and this is where perhaps we have to start questioning some of the things we do in our homes, in our villages. I can understand that many African countries, because of the lack of a real organized agricultural system, and because of the absence of a good agricultural revolution, we have not really been able to feed ourselves very well. And so you have hunger. And so at home, or in the homes, you have at times food even that you say, this food is off, is going off. And then mama and papa will say, no, put it on fire, do this to it. You know, so charity begins at home. But again, too, when someone is hungry, you can understand that he would like to eat something to be there, at least to breathe, and he will know, okay, I may fall sick, but for now, hey, I need to put something in. So you have that culture where, you know, people who do not have food will say, don't throw that away, even though it's something that should be thrown away. There's a keep it. And this goes on, it's internalized, where at times certain foods that you say, oh, it's, you will eat, you will not die. You know, and so it goes on, and it's become part of us. But also, you even look at some of the food. For example, the Nigerian incident where people actually went and they dug up
rotten chicken
that had been buried. I found it a bit repulsive, yet I try to understand it from the cultural angle, where you have a culture where some meat or some food are best eaten when you bury them and they become rotten and they smell. That is when people really feel like this is good meat.
More money.
So I am not mentioning any high value. Then let's think about that. So why will you really begrudge or be angry with someone who goes out there and dig up the carcass or meat that's been buried?
Let's see. There was another example here at Aketechiwa here in the central region last year, where they dumped certain canned drinks because it had expired from a supermarket, and the people in the community, the environment, people went there with their taxes to go and they take those things back, and those things will find themselves back in people's shops.
Yes.
And those were not meats.
Not meat, but this is again the psychology. It's not that bad, even if it's thrown away. Always in the can, you can still eat it. You can do something to it. Just don't throw this away. So I'm of the view that people, in a way, try to just ignore or transcend these shameful deeds because they consider what they get as food. And and if you can depend on grant, or you have at times milk powder being given to you by an outsider. We know some time ago even yellow corn was given to African countries. Some corn that outside Africa will be given to animals. Some kind of were brought into Africa
to feed hungry
Africans. So it's not just, we need really to go into the psyche, the mindset of people. You know, when they decide to take so-called bad food, when they decide to adulterate food in the chop bars, it is something that they do at home. When the soup is not enough at home, they put water in and then salt into it, right? That because there is hunger and people are hungry. And so when this woman or this man is running a restaurant and you go in and you want to eat your Ghanaian beans, and he finds this little beans in there, he says, wait, I'll fix you something. And the person will pour water in it because it is something that people do on the cultural terrain.
I see.
And they bring it out. But this time it is not to give it to you because you're hungry. This time he's doing it because he's or she is economically motivated and really want to capitalize on your hunger and make money off it.
I see. I want us to look, I know you have issues, but let's look at these two commodities, rice and poultry, which we consume a lot in this country. I know you've been working around that area. What have been some of the findings in recent times, especially when it comes to rice and poultry? Country of origin, how wholesome they are, and their duration before it got here.
When I started to look at research into food fraud issues myself, I was hit so hard emotionally. I started to think about, and I just remembered there is a quote a friend just said in joking, something that will not kill, in quote, maybe black man immediately, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Something that will not kill the black man immediately.
So
we
you see,
do not care.
No. So you see milk, they throw cans of this thing away, they go a road accident, when the bottles are crashed, they go there and drink.
Yeah.
It will not kill them now, but maybe in 10 years and the bottle can go and be cutting your intestine
Gradually.
So you see, when you talk about food for later on, we will sound caution that they shouldn't give up, but they should just be cautious. Now, back to your question. If you look at rice, the current issue we have now, which we are still finding more, is the age of rice imported into the system.
Okay.
We cannot prove. Some are very good, some are from reliable sources, but we should also find that in universal terms, 10% of every food has a chance of being adulterated.
So
that
the
is a
rice that
term.
is imported into the country, we cannot determine the age.
Exactly. So what I will say is, if policymakers are listening, they should pay particular eye. The way they were watching ballot box. Is it ballot box or pink sheet? They should do the same thing and watch the food that is coming in, because you may eat to your full or to your fill, but it will not supply all them.
What has been the practice in Europe?
In Europe, for instance, rice, again, you were saying something about rice. Arsenic level in rice is an issue now in Europe. They found out that rice from a cluster of arsenic level in rice from the whole world was done. Africa, we had the lowest.
When you say arsenic level, what do you mean?
It's a kind of carcinogenic property. Maybe it's in the soil.
A cancer-causing
exactly
organism. Okay.
Exactly.
In the
element
rice.
In the rice.
Okay.
Chemistry people will tell you more about that.
Okay.
But what we know is that it causes a lot of even brain damage, memory loss. So in EU now, they are trying to, UK for instance, when we had a workshop, they are trying to push for reducing the level.
So in Africa, rice from Africa is low.
It's very low. 2 countries, Ghana was included. Ghana rice was sampled, and others in the world.
If Ejumara rice was in there,
I cannot. Maybe later on you get that result.
The results with me.
But rice, because of that issue, rice from Africa is very good. Rice from Asian countries
You know, China, Japan, Indian, when they did that analysis, if I had chance, I would have read to you. US, some states in US were leading the global average
in terms of arsenic content.
Yes.
You see, this will have been using chemical fertilizers
Exactly.
for commercial agriculture, and that is why we are moving towards as Ghanaians now. We're talking about planting for food and jobs, and the main thing here is the provision of fertilizers, chemical fertilizers. So it means that if we are not careful, one day we are going to get there.
Exactly. So we need to be careful, and even the ways that recently I just read through some review done in Bangladesh. The same professor I was talking about, they were working on how to even reduce his work, because at that place there's no way you can find low arsenic level. So they have ways of even cooking their rice because of the culture they have there. So if that is the case, we need to be careful. Application of blanket, like my colleague last week said, fertilizer regime, we should be careful because it will leave residue. So when we are applying a fertilizer, an Israel professor will tell you, whatever you do, consider the end. So post-harvest is very important, but pre-harvest to harvest is important. You apply the fertilizer, but consider the whole chain at the end. What happened? Even the method used in cooking, it differs from region to region. So if some region they are applying, they say whatever amount, and they will have a way of cooking it to reduce, and you are doing the same amount, but your cooking method is just straight, you drive and then you eat. These are some of the issues we should look at, the whole chain.
I see. That's the reason why the last time I was saying our parents should be disappointed in us. They spent money, educated us, and now that they need the skills and knowledge we have acquired, we are not contributing that knowledge to the development of their whatever industries they find themselves, and they continue to apply fertilizer in this age haphazardly. How do you think that we can get there?
You see, it all boils down to education and information sharing. Ghana, we are lacking information spreads like wildfire.
Not the quality, propaganda information.
Yes, but we can.
Express-
You see, you are propaganda. It's like baiting some animal. You put the poison in the bait. So you can also put propaganda, and in that, if it's possible, put your agenda too.
I see.
But that will not be so well organized. But if you educate a person that it doesn't matter how much you have, if you don't eat the right kind of food, not the right kind of food to supply you, there's nowhere you can go. At 45, when you have all your money, you are dying.
I see. Now with poultry, any work done in that area?
Poultry, I would say I have not ventured into poultry too much, but I know again poultry. Recently, I just read again the eggs. You know, there is an acaricide they spray. Again, they found that in either Netherlands or so, where they spray acaricide on poultry, they found a residue of fibronil in the egg.
Fibronil, what does it do?
It's an acaricide. It's like trying to control the problems in the birds. So you spray. So when they trace that sprayed, I mean insecticide,
I see.
in the eggs. So if it's in the egg, definitely it was in the meat.
So in the process of controlling pests,
Yes.
the chemicals they use got into the eggs.
Into the eggs.
So the meat should have a lot
Yes,
of
so
this.
the eggs, you know, Europeans, they consume a lot of eggs, and they did that. They found in the shell, in the whatever yolk, and if that is the case, now that chemical is no more. But ask me, I don't know the chemical they use so much in Ghana about that. That means that poultry as well, they also have their fair share, but because no issue have been seen so far, people leave it. I quite remember about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, a whole container was seized. 3 of them, 2 got missing or so. It was full of rotten meat from Europe.
And this got into the market.
Exactly. So when it got there, who are those consuming? So
Now-
the underlying word again, if you want to, poultry, another thing is the cost, how much you are buying. Let's say poultry, you know, is sold for 5 cedi, they tell you 10 for 4, 10 for 3. you are happy to buy.
Yeah, right now, when you go to the open market, the cost of local poultry is more expensive compared to the imported dressed chicken. We eat it every now and then.
Yes, but you see, let me also not say that because of the cost, you should buy expensive one at the expense of
course,
affordable ones. But the underlying word is you know where it's from, who is doing what. The person should be trustworthy. If you can trust your stomach, if you can leave your daughter to somebody to take care of, it should be the same like trusting your stomach to a farmer who is feeding you. In that case, what is happening to you? Your whole system, you are buying this poultry product. Your whole system, you are entrusting it to the farmer, the processor, and even the middleman, and even the shop you are buying. Your whole system.
So while people are eating to live, we are living to eat. But let's see it this way. In Ghana, for instance, do we have the right equipment to test for some of this element in the various kinds of foods that we're talking about here that could be adulterated?
Again, this,
for instance, rice, poultry.
We have and we don't have. When I say we have, is that we have the systems in place. Ghana Standard Board is there, Food and Drugs, Ghana Standard Authority or Food and Drugs Authority, FDA. They are there. They are all doing their work. Some of them. But again, like the question you posted, even in Europe where they are watching, they are still finding traces. So it means we have, but we don't have enough.
That for rice, can we have an equipment that can detect? Because I know these people do same for cocoa.
Yes, we have the. For instance,
there is a machine.
Yeah, there is. The technology is available, but you see the speed at which the product is moving. You remember it took the FDA how many weeks to come out to clear the issue about food fraud? I mean rice, rubber rice.
Yeah.
Because of logistics and other things, they had to delay and do their work well. But food fraudsters are moving very fast. So by the time you detect, even when it's there, the recall in Europe, they could do recall and sue the company and maybe trace those who bought it and then compensate. But here, I don't know. So still, we need to do a lot. If every region or every district will have one district, one factory is good. But I believe that we should have one district, one food police to check what we eat.
Okay, that is what brings me to Prof. Prof, as I said earlier in the introduction, we are busily expanding our health infrastructure, training a lot of nurses. And yet, as we speak, the Food and Drugs Authority, which I should say are the food police, the Ghana Standard Authority, the least they can get to is the regional capitals. As for Standards Authority, they are only in Accra. FDA, you can find them only in the regional capitals. Even then, they don't have the personnel and then the equipment to work with in order to protect the consumer. What do you make of this?
Yes, again, I think that as a country and a country that has governments, they come in and they go, we really need to have the understanding that this is a reality. For this reality.
Very real.
We have to accept that. And if that exists, then it means that the people themselves are not safe. First and foremost, the holistic definition of food fraud is not just food being bad, but even food being diverted. Or food meant for secondary schools being,
it happens
diverted.
every time.
Yeah, as headmistress.
Matrons have been arrested, headmistress
Exactly.
have been.
They are all food.
These must all be checked. We must have that interest in not only identifying, edible food, okay, but also identifying, the thieves who divert, food and sell the food in order to enrich themselves. Regarding the FDA thing, it is the work of some people. And I think that they must really stand up and do their work. The
They are
authorities
few.
that yes, so the
They don't
government-
have the
So
resources.
government must understand that we thrive. We people who say let them go to church and pray and they will leave, they will die. We need food. So we must therefore have the institutions and the means to safeguard and protect what we eat. And so it is an important thing for the government to consider and therefore put the resources into the institutions, providing them with the machines, the vehicles, and in fact training more people to go out and in a way take care of the food that we eat. Otherwise, we will still not really get anywhere. And the other thing is that even if we talk about the FDAs, these are going to be professionals, but all of us should be vigilant.
Exactly. That's the
We
underlying
have to be vigilant.
Very, very vigilant.
Not just to say, okay, I'm going to this market and I'm going to buy this and we just buy. We have to be careful with what we buy. And the other thing is that...
Yeah, Christian says, Jesus says, whatever goes into a man does not defile the man, but what comes out.
Exactly. These are some of the myths that we live with and the myths that are killing us because many of us are still not being bold and courageous enough to use reason and rationalize when we are given some of these myths of just blessings and everything will be okay. The other thing is that our market sees it's a bit difficult for, I mean, food fraud is everywhere, but when it comes to adulteration and stuff, it's a bit difficult for food to be adulterated to a very large extent in Europe. And it's easy here because our markets are open. We have open markets. You have people who just walk around, hawking and vending food and you know. And so how will you know what this person really used in preparing the food that you are purchasing from?
You buy it today, the next day you can't even find them there. And even our fruits in the sun.
Yeah. So
and nobody cares.
Yeah. So the nature of our markets also permit very porous, and today someone will just come in and sell, and tomorrow the person is no longer there. And also the lack of elsewhere you have farms, cooperatives. They are all farmers. When they produce, they take their food stuff and send it to a market. Everybody knows, okay, we're going to the Saturday market or the Friday markets. All the farmers are bringing their produce. So it is something that they are aware of. They even know the farms where these products are coming from. But here, I mean, people are just sitting in front of their homes and they set up something and selling because people are hungry, and it's important for us not only to just say, okay, the government will close the doors, because the government will not do that. The government and the states in Africa will not do that. They can't do that at this particular time because of the economic model that they have adopted. An economic model that says that everything should be allowed to come into your country. And that is the neoliberal economy that I've talked about. Okay? And so if your doors are open and anything can come from China, Japan, the United States, then of course people also on the ground will take advantage of that situation and say, okay, if I can just quickly go to Dubai or I can go to China and I can bring in something, people will just accept it. Whereas you flip it, you can't just take anything and everything from Ghana
and take it
and send it outside there.
Exactly.
So again, it is, and even when you send these things there, people will scrutinize it. It's coming from Africa, right? Flip it, and many people will say, this is coming from there. It is rather the best. So even colonial mentality that we have does not allow people to be vigilant, does not allow people to be critical, when it comes to food that they receive from outside. As long as it's coming from America, it is good.
It's okay.
As long as it's coming from Europe, it is good. And the people who are working to make money out there know the psychology, They have tried and tested it. They know in the 1980s food that they would not even eat. African countries were saying, please bring the food in.
They are
here.
hungry.
Right? So they know. And so, I will not say the governments there are those who push these unwholesome food into African spaces. But businessmen will basically take these unwholesome food and say, the place that you have to send the food to is Africa.
I don't get it.
You will not get it.
But I would be taking a quick break. When I come back, we want to look at all those pharmaceutical companies out there, elsewhere, outside Africa, who are looking for the market to sell their products. And African leaders will go to the same countries and be asking, there are investment opportunities in the health sector. Come and build hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, manufacture drugs. Even now they are telling us that most of the malaria drugs we use in Africa, elsewhere, they don't use it any longer. What is the interest of these companies? I'm taking a break. I'll be right back.
If you always keep your money in your wallet,
Hey, afatogbe.
Ọfọdọ Messi.
Apume.
Nyame na adum wa sẹ.
Afume bebe.
Hwẹ, ọba mọ na edwuma no ma ebu emu.
Hey.
Iyi. Ọfa ne nkabo. Iyi. Isi ẹ. Yellow card. Isi ẹ. Red card.
Ah, referee. Ambwenyu
Oh,
bra.
maybe a way.
Ambwenyu bra. Ajiye mo ba money. Ariaba. Akita afun baku. Anatwe bebre. So aya adwuma ma ajiye mo ba money. A percentage na abanya no. Aye bebre. Maybe hende. Aba register no. Star 712 hash. I register here.
Na no mama mbo here. Ice. Oh, dear.
Afatogbe.
Ọfọdọ Messi. Ọfọdọ Messi. Wa fọ papa. Ya mi sọ. Kon so bebe de no so n'enu aka.
GN Mobile Money. Total convenience.
So you're welcome back. This is Global Dialogue, and we are live on Ocean One Television and on Ahunka 99.5 FM. We are also live on Facebook.com/Ocean One TV and Facebook.com/Ahunka 99.5 FM. Tonight we are talking about food fraud and its implications for society. And I have in the studio Professor Divalera Botri from UCC and Dr. Ernest Mane is the Ladem Kise. Very soon we'll be activating the phone line, so you can also come in with your contribution, your comments, and your questions. Now, talking about Africa becoming the target of several pharmaceutical companies, be it India, be it America, be it Europe. It means we are preparing the grounds for several diseases to come in, and instead of investing in in preventive, we are focusing on the curative. And so we are going to continue to rely on these pharmaceutical industries. Dr. Tay.
This is a wonderful
Volume for me a bit.
This is a wonderful way of trying to say you create job for your those who don't have job. Because again, I know Prof will say that again, if you know that in doing that you create job for your people, then why will you not put more ink into that? You push a lot of people to be looking at ways of curing diseases, we will sponsor diseases because you'll be buying our junk. But nature, again, God is so wonderful that He put a lot of medicine in the food we eat. Food shouldn't be seen as food. It should be seen as medicine.
Okay.
Because there is no medicine you take without the help of food that is going to work. Because food is a universal medicine and it's needed everywhere.
As the doctors even tell you,
Yes.
take it before you.
You take this. Every drug will line or will have its bargain from food. And even if you are not eating, you are starving yourself. Some diseases can kill you as quick as possible. But if you eat well, some diseases are even able to run away from food. That tells you that if they are investing in curative ways because they are getting job, and again, the health sector, I don't know the bill, but if you check the expenditure of government on health issues, it's a lot. It's a lot, and we are spending too much. So if that is what is happening, then the donors or whatever, those who are having the so-called pharmaceutical companies, will rush to Africa. So we should look at the two sides. When they rush there, what are they trying to solve? Most of these occurrences of diseases can be traced back to some food stuff we ate long time ago. Again, if you are even talking about this, how do you call it? Sudan 4. People are dying from cancer. People are dying from heart attack. People are dying from kidney failure. And then we come and say, we will sponsor, there's this drug for kidney failure, this drug for that. Why don't you check the cost and be able to nib it to the bud before you open the floodgate? So don't shift it too much. Again, I heard somewhere they were shifting the blame to some herbal medicine.
Okay.
Of course, I don't have a proof, but it's not all the case true. Because the herbal medicine, some are also trying to adulterate that medicine. But some are working. What of those ones coming in? The food coming in, is it helping? It's not. So we should combine the two before we make a statement that this is not working or this is working.
I see. And we have a lot of, should I say, nurses in the system. We are training, and we have institutions that are training our nurses. From the discussion we've had so far, I am convinced that we should also have an institution that will be training food police.
Yes, so you see, Prof says something, and that is the underlying word. We should go down to the consumer. We should have what we call training for the entire consuming populate, and it includes everybody. Whatever education you have, you should have food fraud issue at the back. How to detect simple ways of checking. Like a simple study that I did, I just presented product to people. Everybody open and then
They didn't check.
Nobody
anything.
checked. Nobody. You can get 90% of people who go to shop, they don't check. Okay, so if you add that
The
even
so-called
to,
elites.
you add that even to our educational system, so you learn ways of detecting. Because of course, in Israel, every man or whatever, you finish school, even in China, you learn how to shoot because they want to defend. So we should add that one, learn how to detect this small fraudulent act, because it's waging a lot of, the percentage is too huge on our foreign exchange, of course. So if you, like you are saying, policy makers are listening, they can say, okay, if that is the case, we are training more nurses. We should also train more extension agents or food police, where we will have them, every district, we have those who will go around and detect. Even where people cook their, cocoa and sell at the wayside, both fruit and whatever. Now, there's even a new incident of acrylamide. When you roast something and it burns, it is suspected to be causing cancer. So you roast coffee, for instance, in the US, in one of the states, they are banning that you should label it that it was having that level. So again, if we train our food soldiers, food policemen, and label them food nurses, where they will go around and educate people, it will work. I'm sure it's going to reduce a lot of death.
Health insurance would be safe.
Will be safe. And the insurance companies are also going to make it, because of course they are not going to pay so much on the release of funds to cure people because they are sick. So again, the cost is not only on the government as well. Again, a lot of fatherless children you will not have a lot because your father is going to live longer, your mother is going to live longer, society is going to benefit because prominent people are even dying from this. So again, education, because it's not everybody that is aware about this food fraud issue. That is why you go and buy a bag of rice, you ask him what's the expiry date, he say, oh, I was the expiry date. You ask this cook, can't drink, have you checked the date? It's after you finish consuming before you turn the bottle and check. This is gone into your system. So this program, I'm sure we need a repeat. A lot of people must come to the realization that we need to sit up, because you will not go to hospital. Someone was saying that our forefathers were not going to hospital because they were doing exercise. It's not entirely true. It was because of what they were eating. At that time, like history is even telling us, food fraud was very little. Now you buy sugar is something else. I'm not saying all sugar that we buy.
You buy apetesi. It is something else. It is not apetesi from Abe or sugarcane.
Exactly. You buy water is something else. You buy that alone is reducing a lot. Not that our forefathers were doing exercise, because exercise is good. I'm not downplaying the importance of exercise. However, they were eating greens, they were eating food without a lot of this fraudulent act.
You know, even last week or so, some people were arrested. We understand Kasua.
Exactly.
Expired product, and they were changing the dates. And all these things find their way into the markets. Prof, talking about the interests of the so-called super pharmaceutical companies who would want to prey on our ignorance and sell drugs that will not deal with the fundamentals of the health conditions we have. So we have to be going back to them every now and then to buy those medicines, creating market, job for them. How are we going to get there so that we wake up to the realities?
Well, I think that there is an organic problem, and the organic problem is that we have, you can have pharmaceutical companies or pharmacies, and you can also have research centers that actually will produce real healing, medicines. So pharmaceutical companies, they pharmacists, they just mix. They know what is there. So this is paracetamol, you mix it. But we need to have countries that actually will throw money into real research, and you have research centers where people are researching to find out cures, for the diseases. This should come from within. From within. Now, if you have these from within, then definitely you'll have the pharmacist. We have pharmacists around who will then be able to, mix the medicine, and then we'll have our own medicine instead of depending on the outside pharmacies. But again, Della, I'm always talking about this neoliberal economy. What are there that we have actually, what have we really put in place to protect ourselves from these profit-making enterprises that even want to make profit from our diseases, our maladies and ailments? They sure definitely will not like many people. I mean, if someone is actually producing medicine, that person definitely makes money when people fall sick. Right. And so you have many of these pharmacies outside who are making billions of the ailments of Africans. And such people are, or such groups, they are not really interested. Africa, to a very large extent, is a place of dispendables. You can expendables. So just send it to them and let them take it. But again, in every situation, you also have Judases. There are some people who are in here who facilitate You know, and it is not you and I or the small person in the ghetto somewhere. Some of these are the so-called big people or big men or big women and leaders. They facilitate and make sure that their allies, their friends outside, get their knockoff drugs into the country for the people to ingest and take. We must understand these will not really heal them. It will only suppress the symptoms, and they may even have other side effects. And many of us are getting sick. One thing that I wanted just for us to even understand the drug thing is, you know, we're talking about food. Some time ago, I'm not saying this to spoil anyone's business, but what we call turkey tail,
Yeah.
right? For
Yeah,
example,
yeah. It was a delicacy.
a delicacy,
It's so.
It still exists in Sugakope, my hometown,
And
right?
even in
Yeah.
Sawam and those places.
and so on.
Why?
And we add color.
Yeah. Why did we really get this thing in Ghana and Africa?
Yeah, only the tail.
Only the tail.
So where are the other parts?
That's the question.
Who eats
The
them?
white
Who
wine
is it? So it is the part that is unwanted, is not considered wholesome, that is thrown into
Contains
Africa.
a lot of
and we
fats.
have people, we have leaders, and we have policymakers, and we have people in charge of security
The gatekeepers.
allowing these to come into. The question is, why are you bringing the turkey tail into Ghana? Why are you bringing the turkey tail into Africa? Why not keeping it out there? Why don't you eat that? We had big barrels made filled with brine, salt water, and
Pig feet.
Pig feet.
Big feet.
So why? The question is why the person who reared these pigs, right, did not eat the feet.
They never import the flesh. It's only the feet.
Why? Because someone said, send this to Africa, and then that person found allies who said, definitely we can hype this and people will eat.
Precontrona fufu.
So you should understand. I mean,
see.
it has been a delicacy. People have eaten it, but now we're beginning to talk about. So we should start questioning: how did this thing get here? Why is it that we're eating this?
So
stuff?
if I
Why
understand
is
you
it
well,
eating turkey
we
tail?
have to go back and understand the essence of eating,
Yeah. Yeah.
not to fill the stomach, and not about the taste.
Yeah. And then my question.
You know, look
is-
at the way we eat. A whole big bowl of fufu,
Yeah.
and you have to eat everything and say, okay, you can eat, you are living well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if someone wants to eat that, that's fine. But what is that person eating? This is the fraud aspect we're talking about.
Okay.
Because I will say, okay, this the gushing, the coming in of turkey tails was actually something that was a deal that was struck some time ago by some people who said, you know what, we've got this unwanted part of the turkey
We throw it away.
and we know it's not good. And someone went and said, give it to me and I'll sell it to my people. And so, are you sure? He said, yes. So you had fraud going on. And this is a situation where you also have someone being able to maneuver to remove all impediments to get this on the market and to be accepted as something that should become part of our cuisine culture. But you and I know that person, if it was wholesome, that person wouldn't have sent it en masse to Africa.
This is Global Dialogue, and
Very
tonight
interesting.
we are talking food fraud. And I promise you that a second part of this show is going to engage policymakers so they can let us in as to the existing legislations as far as food fraud is concerned. We want to know the various interventions they have made in the past. Quite recently, you talk about research. We had a family losing 3 children because they sprayed their room with a kind of chemical the children inhaled it, and then they died in the process. After their death, we now heard that the chemicals were sent to a certain laboratory for testing. So we can conclude that those chemicals got into the country, they were in the shops, consumers had access without it being tested for its efficacy. So the market is open. We have now activated our phone lines. You can call and let's have your contribution. The number is on your screen, 020-7566-185. 020-7566-185. We are talking food fraud. And when you call, please lower the volume of your TV set and listen to us through your telephone. But I am yet to hear, for instance, in any part of Africa where people are prosecuted for engaging in food fraud. You talk about diversion in the various senior high schools. When we started this thing, we had matrons that were arrested. We are yet to hear any of them jailed, whatever. We hardly get to hear that. So you can still keep your calls coming, 020-7566-185.
Now, you hardly hear them because, of course, those who are watching are very few. But we have scanty information. Maybe in South Africa, we had some aspect. For instance, when they had a problem with bacterial outbreak, listeria and other things, they were able to trace back. Apart from that, few ones is hard to hear. For instance, the laws in Ghana, one day we get time and you go to the food laws. Now the laws in Ghana is I read some review from a lawyer who sat down and pointed the loopholes in the food laws in Ghana. It's too old. We borrowed it from UK and it's too old. Too old.
So we've never really paid attention to that
review
over the period.
Good. So she's saying that from the review, I read it and I was so happy that at least somebody is pointing holes in our food laws. For instance, if you go and buy, there is a law that you cannot transport slaughter animal.
Let's listen to this caller. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Your name and where you calling from?
I'm Daniel.
Daniel, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Mamplovi.
All right, let's hear you.
I want to talk about the rice importation. I witnessed one area around Mamobi area there.
Okay.
And you can see the rice that have been sent into the warehouse. There's a label. They remove the labels and then they are filling with a new sacks. And I ask myself, does it mean they are mixing with the imported one, or they are bagging the rice that have been imported, have been changed and putting another one that we don't know that where it's coming from? And this is going to the market. And you don't know our standard board, what they are doing about all this. That is my concern.
But Daniel, in this situation, do you even know where to report this incident?
That is it. Another big.
You know something?
Tell me.
I want to tell you something about standard board. They are not working at all. Because it seems like what comes in, nobody cares. Nobody cares whatever comes to the market, what we are eating, unless somebody is sick. Then we start finding a solution or what the person has ate. And then we say we are going to laboratory. We are not serious.
I see. Daniel, thank you very much for your comment. It's quite disappointing sometimes.
Very, very.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is the issue. We can see, but where do you report? In Cape Coast, for instance, I can cite several instances where the Food and Drugs Authority, together with the police, arrested people, and yet we never saw the outcome. Hello, good evening. Hello, caller, good evening. Hello. Okay, you can also call and contribute 020-7566-185, and the number is on your screen. When you call, reduce the volume on your TV set. We are talking about our food. Hello, good evening. Good evening.
Hello. Hello.
Your name and where you calling from?
Hello.
Yeah, let's hear you.
I beg you from our.
All right, let's hear you.
Please, go back to the local language.
Yeah, I'm on to us.
Go ahead, we are listening. Wait me aka twi, wait me aka. Bye.
Okay, you can go to the local.
Okay. Yeah, that's say obetumi as a frebiuma na line no emo ene but you can also call in 020-7566-185. Tonight we're talking about food fraud and the need for us as Ghanaians, as Africans, to be vigilant, because while people are eating to live, it look as if most of us are living to eat. Which way? We go and eat, and then the food we buy and eat sends us to the hospital and into our early grave. Is that how it is supposed to be? The milk you are buying, do you know the expiry date?
Do you check?
Do you check it? When was the last time you checked it? Even when you go to a shop and you see expired product, where do you go with that product in order to get the kind of relief we need as a people? The reporting mechanisms. Can I go to my district assembly? Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Your name and where you calling from?
I'm Patrick.
Patrick, where are you calling from? Yo, Patrick, open so catchy yanko into you.
House.
Yo. Okay. Patrick, yeah, that's it. Pray for your suggestion. Patrick is suggesting that we should break it down. We should go local, Akan, Hausa, and then we should also go to all the radio stations and make these issues known to the general population. Thank you very much for your.
Now, he's very right.
contribution.
If we can find a way of pushing policy at the district levels, I will be able to so district be a can be being far food fraud.
Okay, I'm coming. Let's pick this call. I'll be back. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, brother.
Your name and where you calling from?
Good evening, brother. I'm Yafiya.
Calling from where? Okay.
This issue should be in the parliament.
Okay.
Let this issue go to the parliament. So the lawmakers can create a law. So what we go into the system, and this law is killing us. It's killing a lot of people. Look can't tell me the 13K cow feed and all this. Look, there's a place in Hamburg called 830 or 10 When you go in,
mention the place again.
then my brother, and she and I and you all this
Like you said,
out.
big feet.
But when you go in, that's what I work. If I don't move one part of the company, you should be home to the camp.
All right.
You can hear the can you get a home from the back outlet.
Thank you very much. It's just like at a point in time we were bringing all these Tikopo TVs to Africa, and when they were moving from Tikopo to the flat screen, and then we went for the flat screen, and then when they were moving from flat screen to the digital, we chased them again with the flat screen. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. My name is Antibo.
Oh, where are you calling from, sir?
I'm calling from Pakistan.
All right, let's hear you, brother.
Okay, so sometimes the media advertisements of products are also a contribution factor. They go too overboard. They sort of mention ingredients that are not even part of it. And other times too, the product label may not even be in English, either in Chinese or Arabic. Hence, difficult for a consumer to even identify expiring date and how to use it.
I see. I see.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for drawing our attention to this one. I think this one is also in the law, product labeling. And we don't know how this product gets to enter into the country. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Your name and where you calling from?
I'm calling from UCC.
Let's hear you, Matthew.
I'm so glad that Prof. Boche taught me, I remember I was in class, he taught me philosophy of history.
Oh, really?
My contribution to this program is that, but first of all, I really thank you all for this program. And what I'm coming to say, I learned this from Prof. Boche. I remember I view his profile picture on WhatsApp.
Okay.
And there was something like, unless philosophers become kings or kings become philosophers. I didn't understand this, and I had to get someone to teach me this.
Okay.
But I think Africa can never develop unless we get kings or leaders who are philosophers or philosophers who are leaders. And that is what you people are doing. Like, sometimes we think Americans or other superpowers, they are practicing democracy. I tell you, they are not practicing democracy.
Not at all.
They are using Plato's Republic.
You're right.
I'm telling you, they have leaders underground, like what Trump is doing, or other leaders who are dictating for them. For example, you people should be given a place, and then you'll be dictating for the government. Akufo, come on, we want you to do this, we want you to do this. Indirectly, our people will not at all, we are passing democrats. No, we are not passing democrats, and that is what the other powers are doing, and they are progressing.
Matthew.
So, hello, sir.
You have provoked me tonight. And I want you to join this movement. So together, we can get Africans to start thinking and not worrying.
Please, could you come again?
I said I thank you and I welcome you to join this movement where we can get Africans to start thinking and not worrying.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will see Prof. Boche and then get your contact.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matthew. It's serious. Dr. Pipim said Africans don't think. And he said we think that thinking and worrying are synonymous. So when we say we are thinking, we are worrying. And then one man made this comment that in China, they have people called thinkers, and they only think for China, and there are the implementers. After the thinkers have taught, the implementers get to work. You remember in Ghana, when Nana Akufo-Addo was swearing in the Council of State, he admonished them that do not be rubber stamps. Then I said, wow, the man has hit the nail right on the head. What was he implying? As we speak today, the Council of State, are they rubber stamp or they are proactive? I leave this judgment to Ghanaians. But you can also call in 020-7566-185. 020-7566-185. Matthew was talking about kings being philosophers, philosophers being kings, which he picked from your WhatsApp platform. Your DP. What is that about?
Well, I was basically excited. I thought my students how society what it's to be understood as, you know, a human being, and the human being can be divided into three parts: the intellectual part, the emotional and you know part, and then acquisitive part. And I make them understand that, imagine if you have a human being and you put the stomach where the head is supposed to be, what will happen to that human being? First, that human being will appear as a monster and make people run away. But again, that human being will not be human, because that human being will not be a thinking being. It is this way because you have the head, and that is why he made mention of the fact that unless kings become philosophers and philosophers become kings, and this is Platonian, also taken from the ancient Egyptian mystery systems and philosophy, where if you have kings who are not thinkers, they will definitely drive society into a ditch. So you must have presidents, kings, leaders who are philosophers. Philosophers means, people who think and people who are not acquisitive. If you have kings, the stomach becoming the head, the stomach is always food. So if the stomach becomes the head, where the head is supposed to be, you will understand, or you can imagine what will happen to society. If you have business people running society, what will happen? They have to play their roles as business people. The emotional part of the courageous part, these are the defense. They defend us, the soldiers. They have to be here. This is your chest area, right? And you have to get the head. That's the thinking area. And our leaders should be the head, the thinking area, which means a leader should not be acquisitive. A leader's pride and joy should not come because he is owning 1,000 cars.
I see. Let me pick this one. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Your name and your name and where you calling from?
My name is Yazid, calling from Masaman.
All right, let's hear you.
Please, there is something maybe I want to add to your program.
Okay. Go ahead.
So that's my first time listening to your program. It's very educating. It's very good.
Okay.
Please do know something.
Tell me.
There is this thing I do normally say that Ghana and Africa, if you never went to work, nothing is very different.
Oh, my
Just
brother.
look at let's just take this thing. Ministry of Health. Look at the health. Look at the Ministry of Environment. Look at our environment. Just take it one by one. You think they are not just working. Everything is not working. Sometimes you need to think of Ghana or Africa or something. Sometimes you are going bananas, you are going crazy. Nothing just going on. They are putting square just look at your people in the studio. You don't correct submissions on this program, but if you need to put this, it's never going to get anywhere. In the police, you need to pay price to get your salary in the school. You need to pay price. Even if you catch a people in the police station, the policeman even tell me to buy food for the policeman. Just look at nothing is going well. Look at me going well. Everything is bad. It's okay. Let me hear you.
Thank you. That is why you and I have to come together now. Somebody said the reason why God did not put our brain into our legs is that he knows that the brain is what makes the man. You know, they can cut your leg, you'll still be alive.
Exactly.
They can cut your hands, you'll still be alive. But when they cut your neck off, you are gone.
Brain dead.
That is why God put this brain here, and we have to use it. Use it. Unfortunately, in Africa, when it is getting to election, you see how some politicians can drive us crazy. You know, they come with their charismatism, and then we follow them. After the elections, then we put our hands on our heads. They have deceived. Who deceived you? You deceived yourself. That is why Global Dialogue is here. We say we are creating the new African. That Africa who wakes up to reality. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Your name and where you calling from?
I'm Emmanuel. I'm calling from Teshi.
All right, Emmanuel, let's hear you. Lower the volume on your TV sets.
Yeah, I'm right.
All right, let's hear you.
And thank you for today's training. In fact, according to the word that the Prof said now concerning human being changed from the head to the stomach to the head and the rest, you know, that is what is really going on in the system.
Yeah.
In that aspect, you see somebody in the physical way as a normal human being, and the spiritual form, the person is not like that. That's the reason why you see that most of our markets, we have the wrong product in our system. Because all those things came from outside and they channeled it through the entry point. And we have security, we have whatever people over there checking those things. Because on the physical, we see them as human, and then in the spiritual way, they are in the human form. That's why all those things are able to enter into the system. You see, so when you are saying is that to go to the source, everybody don't think that you have the wrong things over there. You have them there. When you come to pharmaceutical fish, we have a lot of drugs which are not wholesome, and yet we give us all to take it, and then, you know, you feel sick. You feel because we are not in the form of the way we are set. Just like I said now, when it comes to the time of election, we see people come and say, some of people and say a lot of good situations, but when they have what they have, or they get, and they tend to another way. So before we have our freedom, unless we change our way of thinking, we have to get a positive way of thinking.
All right.
We have to think way of positivity. We have to change our way of act. This is the way we're doing it.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for calling. We cannot pick any more calls because our time is fast spent. Those leaders who use their stomach to think, I think next time I'll try to get the features of those leaders, and then I'll know how to deal with them. Just under 20 seconds, Dr.
Under
Tay.
20 seconds, what I just want to say is that we know the problem, but the atom is very important. So you say the cell, the organ, then the entire system. So you need to look at what we do as individuals. When you go to the supermarket, you need to check the expiry date. Any suspicion, don't buy. Call the FDA or Ghana Standard Boss. If at least they will not pick your call, or even if they will pick, you should not consume.
So we should also be vigilant ourselves first.
Okay.
Before shifting blames to whoever should do his work well.
All right.
You must do your work well individually before pointing fingers to somebody else.
Thank you very
That's
much.
what I would say.
Prof, under 20 seconds.
Well, I would say that let us do that which is good. It is just good to do good. Let us do that which is noble. Let us be selfless. Let us do things that will build this country, and let us do things that will keep us healthy. Which means that if you're giving anything to anyone to eat, make sure you give something that is wholesome. Culture says, don't give that which you don't want to eat to someone.
Okay. Thank you very much for doing the listening on radio and on TV. I'm talking about Honkana 99.5 FM and on Ocean One Television. Dr. Eneste, a food technologist from UCC, and Professor Divalera Botre from the History Department of the University of Cape Coast. My name is Deladem Kisei. Let me say a big thank you to all my producers. Adelaide Asempa, UCC School of Communications, Level 400. Good evening. Thank you for the great work. And of course to my cameraman, Kakra, and MCR, Ima. And in the studio at Ahunka FM, Peter Ate. God willing, next week, we'll find out if I go to a shop to buy chicken, dressed chicken, how do I detect the expiry dates? And we'll get some answers from the policy makers. Have a good evening.
Town.